Hello. So welcome to a new video. My name is John Skippy. Nice to see you. Welcome. So I did a demo song for Diva Station, which is a new library we've released for the Diva plugin from Uhi. Comes with 300 patches. In the Unify library, there are multis. Like this. And so I did a demo song, and here's the rules for writing a demo song. You go through whatever it is you're going to be doing a demonstration of, and you find its strengths that you can tie together into one production. This library is really cohesive in a futuristic cinematic synthesis, Vangelis, Dune, all that kind of stuff, kind of a vibe. And so I picked out a handful of effects. I picked out a handful of sounds that I wanted to show, and then you build a song showcasing those sounds. And you try not to layer too much. You don't want it to be too short, and you don't want it to be too long. You want it to kind of like have its moment with the spotlight, and then move the spotlight to something else, and make it really clear when you move that spotlight to something else what you're showing. So in this demo song, I'm progressing from showing this. This is a multi from Unify using the library, and it consists of 2 Diva patches, which just had this really, really cool, there's motion. But I wanted a bit of an attack, and Unify has 3 gigabytes with samples and all sorts of cool stuff in it that you can pull from to layer with existing plugins. That's one of the beautiful things with Unify, is you have this whole core of usable pianos and basses and drums and all that stuff you can add to any plugin. So I added the guitars, jazz guitar and space. That's the dry version of it. And then I added a kalimba that has reverb in the sample. And you combine, well, here's Unify's parts. See how they fade out, right? So it's perfect to be married with these Diva patches. So you have a nice attack goes away, the pads come in. Okay? So I actually started writing with this sound. This was the sound that built the piece. So before we go any farther, let me play the piece. And then we'll talk about the components in it. And in order to do this, I need to turn off my microphone and load my mastering preset, which will make my voice sound a little funny because it's going to kind of hyper things. But if we go over here, this is my current favorite mastering combination of using UAD, EQ. They're really, really cool LA2 kind of compressor. And then Vice, which is available through SoftTube. It's actually on sale right now. It's a wonderful compressor for bringing up the energy stuff. We'll talk mastering at the end. I'll show you what it sounds like without these compared to what if you just use a limiter, right? But first, let's play the track. So I'm going to mute this. Actually, briefly, I went through and turned on freeze for tracks so that there's no crackling. So here we go. Came out so nice. So let me get back to a effect set where I don't have voice. Okay, so there we go. And let me turn off freeze so that I can show you the parts to this without there being freeze. So basically, I started, like I said, with Never Trust. And I was playing with this and I was like, this would be really cool to start with. And I was playing around with this kind of stuff. Right, I kind of had this little germ of an idea in my head. Here, let's call up Unify so you see the keys of what I'm playing. Keyboard. So this is the patch, and I like playing around with those types of augmented things for this type of thing. Cinematics, all about interesting modes and chords. And as you notice, I'm not playing big chords. When you're doing a piece, a lot of times fewer notes are better. You want to get the point across and make it as pure of an idea as you can. And so having, I'm not playing big chords like that. It's about, I want it to be really clear. I want to have other things in this mix, and so play accordingly, right? So playing the right parts with that. But before I played it, I wanted a groove to play with. Spitfire Audio, they have a wonderful library from Charlie Clouser, and he did this library of all of these really, really cool cinematic percussion. It goes from big toms to smaller toms to metal. And so it's a really nice combination. You know, just whatever you play, it's going to sound good. And so, you know, good or bad, they put this low C with the really, really big sub. The note above it, C sharp, works far better because that takes up so much energy that you need to use it in really specific places. Don't use that all the time and then try to build a whole cinematic orchestra score around it, or else it's just going to be mud and your engineer is going to cuss you out. But C sharp is that same energy without the sub. And then I was looking for something alternate. I didn't want a snare per se, and I found this note on A sharp 3. Right? So I played just those two notes to start with for the groove. You hear my air conditioner in the back. It's because it's like 99 degrees outside. It's really, really hot. So I did that in one pass. Now, I could have tried to, you know. A lot of times you try to do the whole groove. Don't do that. It's better to use multiple tracks. In your sequencer, use whatever option there is for inside of Logic. It's over here under Other. You can say new track with same instrument. And you can do that over and over again so that you can build up components and then use two hands and play with dynamics. So what I did is after I had the pass of the drums, I went back into all this metal percussion. I used both hands and I played with dynamics. I wanted to have life, not just sound like it's just, you know, I've got 3 cinematic metal samples. I'm going to just play them till you're like, bang, 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 bang. No. So dynamics, again, this library from Spitfire Audio is great because it's round robins, so you can play the same note over and over, and you know, it's going to sound nice in that regards. So if we combine the percussion and the drums, that's what I had, basically. And then if I go over here and add this, I played my idea. Right? And so I sequenced that part in. So let's add that to this mix. We'll go boom, boom, bump, bump, solo those guys. Now I went through and I added, actually, to be honest, I actually added more to this melody and further refined it after I made the library video that I did. Because in that video, I was jamming along and adding a melody on top of it. I was like, this is nice if it has a little bit more of an established melody. So when, if you hear from the beginning, let's turn off solo. So it's got this warm setting, introduction, set and everything, right? Now, another part of the library we really want to show off were the effects, because there's really, really cool effects inside of this Diva Station library. And so for ya, just a really, really cool, you know, Blade Runner-esque, Future City, police, you know, that siren kind of thing. So I used that. There's another riser from the library I used called, what was it called? Cyber Optics, which has a really, really cool right? So I used that at a couple key places. You don't use it all the time. Just find specific parts. Oh, and show this. Let me show you this. So let's see. Let's turn off our solo button. So I was talking about hammers, and it has that really, really low. I did use it in two places. I used it right here. Right there to put statement. I put it in there. And at the end of the groove, right here. So you can use it, but find sounds like that that are going to take up a lot of space. Find places where they're allowed to take up a lot of space and not make you look like you don't know what you're doing. That's the basics. Now, there's also the look above Sine, which is a really beautiful ARP patch. And I use that just for a little bit of color, so it's not just sitting with, because the beginning, all I'm doing is going, ooh, you're creative. So I want to add a little bit more to it than that. So I added the sine wave, which is just adding in. So if you, the effect and that sine wave, it's all you need, right? And then I want to like enforce that melody, but not make it super strong. So I first did it just here. Let the strings build it up just a little bit. So on top of Never Trust, I added two additional sounds. I added key year. I just love the unique attack of it. And then I added synth Angelus. And when you put those two together and have them play the melody, oh wait, let's have it play from here. Right? This has this cool attack. And then let's combine that with Never Trust. So those three emphasize it. And I didn't quantize it. I wanted to be really human. For the Angelus track, I went through inside of Logic. If you select a track like this, or if you go down here, hit P to show the piano player scroll. If you go down here to what's called the transform window, this is where there's all sorts of MIDI transform. And I chose Humanize. And this gives you a randomizing where you can say random the timing and you can bring it up and down however much you want it to be. I'll make this really pronounced. And then you say operate, and as you can see, it randomizes all the notes. So this is kind of doing what Jitterbox does, but it does it to a track. And so now when I play this, now it's even more out of time, but adding a little bit of that lets you layer something and then differentiate the time a bit. Inside of Unify, Jitterbox is able to do random timing in real time to the notes you play. That allows this melody to have 3 parts. I copied the same parts, but because of the timing differentiation and stuff, it plays in the mix and sounds nice, right? So the first section of the piece is setting the mood. You want to set the vibe, and then have the melody that's done with the Never Trust. And then there's a breakdown. And then the next part I really wanted to show off was this BassBorg, because this is just badass bass. Right? So it's just Diva. This is one of the Diva Station basses. Just the right settings. Fred nailed it. So it's just got this really cool vibe. So that combined with the drums, and then I brought in Unify drums at the same time. Right? There's that effect, right? Little string tension with pitch bend. Now, in hammers, you see this third track right here. This is an additional track I did after the piece was done. And I knew where I had holes that I wanted to fill with toms. So this is nothing but tom fills. So if we solo this with the bass and the drums, you can just hear, here, let's do this. Let's do it with all the drums so you can hear this. But listen to these tom fills. It's messy. There's a big ending. Right? So I went through and I added toms through the piece on an additional track after it was done. You don't put in toms until you know where you can put in toms. Otherwise, you're just going to put things where it's in the way of something else that needs to be. The way to think of a song, to me, is a lot like when you're reading something in a book. And it needs to be clear and concise, and you get the point. And if you put too much stuff into the mix, it's like, look at the ingredients for chili. It's not 50 things. It's like really, really good chili is like 5 things, but they each do their thing they get the point across. So do the same thing here. Find when you have time to put in toms, find times like that. And then for the end, I wanted one of my favorite patches that I came up with for this library. To be the star. And that is Sad Goodbyes. I don't know why, but I've had enough sad things happen in my life. I know sadness, so. Anyway, this is just a favorite sound. And it's a combination of one beautiful Diva patch and then 2 Unify layers as Guru samplers. And then a little auxiliary bus for reverb and so forth. And the whole register is just And so with this part, I don't do a lot of automation, but for this, I needed automation for it to get the dynamics and the expressivity across. So as it's playing, just sustaining out the notes, and then the volume expressivity really sells it. Right? So, those are the components for the demo that I think it sells the library pretty well. I would want to own this library if I didn't work on it, right? And then for the final thing to show you is a little bit about mastering, because mastering is really important. It's one of those things you don't want to overlook because it really does make a difference. For this piece here, I really wanted to spend a little time with it, and so I came up with a really nice combination of components that work. I should point out, if you want this library, it's available right here at plugandgroove.com, and there's demos here for FUTR City that you can play both the full mix and the naked mix. And the naked mix is just all the Unify stuff, hammers removed, so you can just hear that by itself. But here, check this out. So this is what this library would sound like as you've been hearing it, just basically with a limiter, right? Well, the final version, I wanted it to have a little bit more jump at you, a little bit more presence and stuff. And so it actually now sounds like this. And actually, I'm sweetening it a little bit because I have this on. If I turn this off, that's more. So if you go from that, hear the difference? Into the bass part. There's without mastering. There's mastering. Right? So, spend some time for this particular track. Let me go over here to the mastering. So this is using, I love Universal Audio Effects. I've been a fan of their effects for a very long time. This is using their Neve EQ, which just has so much personality. Here's without it on my voice, and here's with it on my voice. The compressor has just a little bit of extra pop and definition that it gives everything. And then the Vice is a really cool mastering compressor, maximizer, as they call it. So there's without. So this is wonderful. Love these effects. So you can make your own chain. There's so many great effects out there. There's no one that can tell you what to use because there are different ways to. But spend a little time, find a little EQ, a little compression, a little maximizing will go a long ways to giving a mix definition. And all I did to make this, the only limiter version, is using Fab filters. And I used this and I bumped it up a bit so that I got the level about the same. And it does a nice job, but you need EQ as well and stuff like that. So spend some time when you do the mastering to work and focus. Don't overdo it, but give things a little bit of nice polish so it has a nice presence to it. And there you go. So I hope this helps. I hope it inspires. This Diva Station Library is wonderful. So I hope this inspires you to get that if you own Diva. A number of people have said in the comments that it's one of their favorite libraries. All right. Now, thank you for watching. There's a lot coming in the next couple of days, so get ready for a bit of a fun roller coaster. We're about to release the update to Unify. We've got a library for Omnisphere coming, all sorts of good stuff. So thanks. We'll see you later.